Welcome back, everybody. I hope you're doing well. Let's start with what everyone is talking about for a good reason, which is the Trump administration got caught doing a war crime. And then their reaction has proven they agree. Now, they won't say that. You have lots of posts like this from Pete Hegseth. The fake news is delivering more fabricated, inflammatory, blah, 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 right? Blame on the fake news. But if you listen to the subtext of what they're all saying and doing, it's pretty clear they agree with how problematic, with how illegal what they did was. And so let me walk you through this. You have Hegseth getting caught in previous footage, putting himself in a pinch. And then you have Trump figuratively trying to run as far away as he possibly can from Hegseth on this. Then Hegseth, so it's going, hey, Trump, did this happen? Trump goes, well, the Hegseth's deal. Hegseth goes, well, this is the Admiral's deal. But it all started with big denials. This is ridiculous, the fake news. What are we talking about? During these strikes on alleged Venezuelan drug boats, you had one that was struck, and then because of a Hegseth order of kill them all, despite them now being defenseless, and an act of just circling back to specifically kill them, now you don't even have an objective with a quote-unquote drug boat, they ended up just killing them to kill them after they were shipwrecked. And that is kind of in pretty clear terms a war crime. And then Hegseth was on tape going, I watched that sucker live before it was exposed what exactly happened. Listen to this.
It said on social, on Truth Social, let them be on notice to anybody bringing drugs to the U.S. Beware. So the president is sending a message to other cartels, right?
A very clear one. I can tell you that was definitely not artificial intelligence. I watched it live. We knew exactly who was in that boat. We knew exactly what they were doing, and we knew exactly who they represented. And that.
So, even though it's not true, they knew exactly who was in. They knew exactly where it was going. We've looked at the previous examples of how they don't exactly know who they're talking about and how outrageous it is. But that's him back in September, right after this happened, saying, I watched it live. Okay, so keep that in mind because I have a bunch of different examples to go through as to the panic going on at the White House, starting with Trump going, what? I don't think that happened, because if it did, I don't think I would support that, but ask Hegseth.
Clarity if there was on the Venezuela boat strike, if there were a second strike that killed people in the first strike, were you thinking that was illegal?
I don't know that happened. And Pete said he did not want them. He didn't even know what people were talking about. So we'll look into it. But no, I wouldn't have wanted a second strike. The first strike was very legal. It was fine. And if there were two people around, but Pete said that didn't happen.
Does that mean
I have great confidence.
He's saying there's no second strike.
I don't know. I'm going to find out about it. But Pete said he did not order the death of those two men.
Do you have any concerns about how those boat strikes have been carried out at all?
Very little, because you can see the boats, you can see the drugs in the boats, and each boat is responsible for killing 25,000 Americans. So, and they're doing an amazing job. And you know, you just look at the numbers, the amount of drugs.
So there's so many aspects of this. I've tried not to just go through and make my whole argument again, see our past segments as to why even before this, you have illegality involved. Before this, you have them lying about what they know and what they don't and the dangers posed. But it really is less about drugs, because Venezuela is not the main source of our problem there. It's not even close. It's like essentially none of our fentanyl comes from Venezuela or from these boats. So it's more about a step towards regime change in Venezuela. Pretty obviously, Trump is pretty clear-ish about that. But look at how it spirals from there, okay? So initially, you kind of have Hegseth going, something fake, but I stand with if it did happen with the Admiral. And it was kind of, are y'all shifting blame here? What's happening? And then Trump at his cabinet meeting that we'll get into in more depth later in the show says, I don't know much about it, but this is kind of Hegseth's deal. Oh, not loading. Let me refresh this real quick. Let's see here. And then I'll show you HEGSETH's reaction after that.
It's very dangerous stuff. I know so many people where their sons were drug addicts. They had one little sample, and they died. They couldn't believe it. As far as the attack is concerned, I still haven't gotten a lot of information because I rely on Pete. But to me, it was an attack. It wasn't one strike, two strikes, three strikes. Somebody asked me a question about the second strike. I didn't know about the second strike. I didn't know anything about people. I wasn't involved in it. I knew they took out a boat. But I would say this,
So he's completely running away from any responsibility, trying to put it on HEGSETH. So then, let's see what HEGSETH response is. Do you think if they believed this weren't a war crime? Do you think if they believed this were legal, they would be shifting blame like this? Because they love taking credit. You would have believed by Trump's telling of the bombing of Iran, when he was proud of the result, you would have believed Trump personally got into the plane and flew it himself. And then went big, massive dump as he was clicking the drop bomb button. By his telling of the story, it was all him and his genius. Now he goes, I have no idea about this. Crazy, crazy world, huh? Ask Admiral Bradley. Here's HEGSETH. Click the subscribe button if you appreciate these updates. A major time. You can see the ratio here of people who watch the show but aren't subscribed. A majority of people watch the show aren't subscribed. Please do click the subscribe button.
The first couple of strikes, as you would, as any leader would want, you want to own that responsibility. So I said, I'm going to be the one to make the call after getting all the information and make sure it's the right strike. That was September 2nd. There's a lot of intelligence that goes into that, building that case and understanding that. A lot of people provide
really
information.
listen to this.
I watched that first strike live. As you can imagine, at the Department of War, we got a lot of things to do. So I didn't stick around for the hour and 2 hours, whatever, where all the sensitive site exploitation digitally occurs. So I moved on to my next meeting. A couple of hours later, I learned that that commander had made...
I'm having some jacket problems if you're watching me. I'm having some jacket. These buttons are really enjoying being unbuttoned without my permission. I don't know anything about them. Ask Pete HEGSETH about what's going on with my buttons, okay?
Which he had the complete authority to do. And by the way, Admiral Bradley made the correct decision to ultimately sink the boat and eliminate the threat. He sunk the boat, and eliminated the threat. And it was the right call. We have his back, and the American people are safer because narcos...
Okay, so did you hear what he said? In the Fox News hit, he went, I watched that sucker live, and it was beautiful. Then Trump goes, Pete told me we didn't do a second strike. What do you say, Pete? And Pete goes, so listen, I watched the first strike live, but I'm a busy guy. So then I had to leave. I couldn't stick around for hours and hours. Which honestly makes this story sound even more sickening. What are you saying? Like an hour and a half later, we realized that two people of an undefined identity were hanging to wreckage. And then that's when we killed them. It wasn't even quickly. Okay. But then he had to go on, quote unquote, moved on to my next meeting. So we stand by Admiral Bradley, but he was the one who really conducted the second strike. If there was one. There might not have been, but if there were, it was him. If it happened, we stand by him, but it wasn't us, just to be clear. Ron Filipkowski said, this is why military service members should refuse to follow illegal orders, because when the shit hits the fan, Trump and HEGSETH will deny everything and blame you. Here's Levitt setting this up yesterday.
Thank you. Gabe.
Thank you, Caroline. Excuse me. Regarding Venezuela, the president said yesterday that Secretary HEGSETH had denied that second strike, the reported second strike on an alleged drug boat on September 2nd, the secretary said to the president that didn't happen. But to clarify, I just wanted you to clear this up. In his social media post, Secretary HEGSETH didn't go into details about that strike. He just said U.S. operations in the area were lawful, and he said that the story and media reports were fabricated. So to be clear, does the administration deny that second strike happened, or did it happen and the administration denies that Secretary HEGSETH gave the order?
Huge question. Are you denying that the second strike happened? Because that was a lot of the stuff that was the vibe you were spreading in the media aftermath of the story coming out. Or are you denying it was Hegseth's fault? Essentially, right? Part 1 or part 2? The former or the latter? Let's see.
The latter is true.
The latter, she says. So they're not denying it happened. They're denying Hegseth had anything to do with it. Wait, but if it was the brilliance of our lawful military approach to this issue, why wouldn't Hegseth take credit like he has for every other thing he's even been tangentially involved in?
Denies that Secretary Hegseth gave the order.
The latter is true, Abe, and I have a statement to read for you here. President Trump and Secretary Hegseth have made it clear that presidentially designated narco-terrorist groups are subject to lethal targeting in accordance with the laws of war. With respect to the strikes in question on September 2nd, Secretary Hegseth authorized Admiral Bradley to conduct these kinetic strikes. Admiral Bradley worked well within his authority and the law, directing the engagement to
Something feels really notable about them naming him. You know? I feel like they would have said, Hegseth ordered this strike and it was conducted by her service members or whatever. There's something so fascinating about, and let me give you the name of the person. To Filipkowski's point, it's clear Hegseth gave a kill them all order. Maybe it was Bradley who interpreted that as a second strike, but it's Hegseth's orders. And Admiral Bradley is now being the one they want to blame for it. Look at this. Even more.
So that's why you've seen a drastic difference in this administration's policy with respect to the last, and it's one of the many reasons the American public reelected this president and support this Secretary of War in conducting these strikes.
So to be clear, to clarify, Admiral Bradley was the one who gave that order for a second strike.
And he was well within his authority to do so.
And a separate question, the president several days ago said it was...
Okay, so then what's so interesting is Matthew Gertz writes a straightforward progression from claiming this entire narrative is fabricated with no facts to admitting most of the report is accurate, shielding the top official involved, and saying that the strike was good, actually. Very dishonest people. And then cites examples of what I was referring to, which is this proves not only that the story was true, disturbing, but that you are so willing to be dishonest. So it starts with, that's not true. Then it's, let's get some distance between Trump and Hegseth and the act because it's bad. But then, oh, that doesn't look exactly right. So can we do kind of it's his fault, but we stand by him? But like, if a head needs a roll, ultimately, we'll make sure it's his and not Hegseth's. So, right? So, who else should we ask about this? You might ask. Well, we asked Trump. We asked Hegseth. I'm sort of sure Vance has spoken on it somewhere. You know who could do some oversight into the executive branch's alleged war crimes? Congress. Maybe we ask the Speaker of the House, Mike?
The Caribbean boat strikes, the administration has acknowledged that there was a second strike in that attack in September, but they have not said if there were any defenseless survivors. Should they release the video to Congress, the unedited video to Congress and to the American public? And two, if the defenseless survivors were killed, would that constitute a violation of the laws of war?
I'm not going to prejudge any of that. As you know, both of the Armed Services Committee and the Senate and the House will be having hearings on this to review, and that's their role. I have been listening. Again, I was pretty busy yesterday. Didn't follow a lot of the news, but I caught up a little bit early this morning. That
he hasn't been keeping up with the news a lot. So it's really, he can't speak to the legality of it as a constitutional lawyer. Mike Johnson is a constitutional lawyer. He wouldn't speak on the Constitution and all that sort of junk, but he wishes that he could. He's been really busy. He was getting a lot of notifications from his son's porn usage. This morning he just had to review and triple review. I just saw a story actually about the IRS being tasked with, with going through and determining for OF, OnlyFans influencers, many of them make sexual content, determining for tax purposes for the no tax on tips or limited tax on tips or somewhat reduced tax on tips provision in Trump's bill, because that can't apply to pornographic related tips, if this influencer filing their taxes and trying to write off their tips, if they were engaged in pornographic activity. And so there's some, let's be honest, dude at the IRS now whose job is going to be going through OnlyFans accounts and determining, is this pornographic? Is this too pornographic? Which is the best, most interesting job ever, right? What do? I work at the IRS. Oh, what specifically? Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. All right, fine, I'll tell you. I have to watch hours and hours and hours of porn to determine if it's pornographic enough to where they can't have the reduced tax on tips applied to them. And there was this one influencer where it was really tricky. It was really tricky. It was like, okay, she's doing that to herself. Does that apply? And I just had to watch it over and over and over again for the sake of the IRS. We don't want people lying on their taxes. So I think maybe Mike was seeing if he could get that job, which would be the only way his wife would let him watch porn. And he was busy this morning, is the point. But no, his answer of, I just haven't been keeping up with the news, is one he gives a lot when he's asked about bad Trump behavior.
Comfortable are you with the president apparently seeking $230 million from the Department of Justice?
I don't know the details about that. I've just read it.
I don't know. I've never seen the Epstein evidence. It wasn't in my lane.
I don't know anything about the meme coin thing. I don't know.
I don't know anything about the dinner. I was a little busy this past week, as you know.
I'm not following all the twists and turns of the Qatar jet. I haven't looked into the details of the RSC budget. There's lots of nuances. That's the first I've heard of that. I don't know anything about it. I have not heard or looked into any of the details of that. I've been a little busy. I haven't seen the specifics of this, and I don't know. I don't know the details. I just saw a headline this morning. I don't know what you're talking about with the children. Look, I'm not going to make any detailed statement on this.
You get it. He does that a lot. So he's a little bit useless. And then this kind of sums it up, huh?
Room who do reach out for comment, who try to get things right, and there are some that remain. But overwhelmingly, the fake news that we see pumped out of this building on a day-to-day basis, it's honestly overwhelming to keep up with it all.
I agree. The fake news that's pumped out of the White House is extensive.
Fact check, true.
Nick Adams said, I'm a patriot because I'll defend Trump and Secretary Hegseth no matter what. That's like the opposite of patriotism. It's the opposite of patriotism. It's just, I swear total loyalty to two people. Now, Megyn Kelly, again, something went wrong with her some time ago, and she's just lost all ability to use reason. Of course, she went very viral for that clip of her saying, we should specify that Epstein, from what I understand, really was more into like your 15-year-old, quote unquote, this is what she said, barely legal, which is not 15. And he wasn't like a pedophile. He wasn't like into 8-year-old, right? So she went really viral for that. Ever since then, it's just stayed bad. She didn't rebound and start becoming reasonable. Just, it stayed bad. Including her saying, yeah, you know what? I am upset. I am upset about this second strike business. To which you think, Luke, I thought that's what you just said. Wait. Because I wish they would make these people suffer more and make them bleed out and make them lose a limb first.
So I really do kind of not only want to see them killed in the water, whether they're on the boat or in the water, but I'd really like to see them suffer. I would like Trump and Hegseth to make it last a long time so that they lose a limb and bleed out a little. Like, I'm really having a difficult time ginning up sympathy for these guys who 10 seconds earlier almost got taken out by the initial bomb, but because they managed to get ejected, a little too soon, had to be taken out in the water. I realize legally it may make a difference, but truly, Mark, this is a tough case to really gin up the sympathies of the
That's a crazy statement. I realize, with war laws. But other than that, rip a leg off first. Then it wouldn't be. Then I think Megyn Kelly would be satisfied. Sick. Let me just remind you one more time. Are you really arguing, Megyn? Not some Tren de Aragua. Come on, we haven't used that soundbite in so long. See if you can find it called Tren de Aragua. Right. Not some terrorist, but instead some dude who got offered $200 to drive a boat from Venezuela to Trinidad. You think that they deserve to bleed out to death? They were paid. They needed a little money, so they hopped into a boat that someone said, hey, just drive this from point A to point B, pay you some money. Don't worry about what's in it. And there's some cocaine. I don't snort cocaine. Come on.
I don't snort cocaine.
All right. You really think the punishment should be, as they're desperately clinging to wreckage, you strike them again? Actually, do you think we should be striking them at all? Wouldn't it be more impactful if Pete Hegseth is correct? Number one, some of these boats, a lot of them, maybe all of them, because they don't know, they don't tell us, aren't even going to the United States. They're just in waters somewhere, and they want a big, bold sign of their hard work, even though they're not actually doing the hard work necessary with the drug trafficking. And it doesn't come from Venezuela. Okay, so as that's happening, don't you think if we actually, as Hegseth lies and says we know everything about them, we know who they are, we know where they're headed, we know it all, wouldn't it be more impactful to detain them and then work them? And I don't mean in the Megyn Kelly chop their arm off way. I mean, like, maybe they tell us stuff about other people, you know, in like TV shows. Hey, you're going to go to jail for the rest of your life unless you work with me. I want to help you out. I want to help you out. Right? You sit in your chair backwards. Listen, I've been where you are. You kind of fake sympathy from the detective. Wouldn't that be more impactful? We detain them, we try them, we have due process, and then we maybe get some info out of them. And meanwhile, Pete Hegseth is making jokes around this. For your Christmas wish list, I don't know who I know this is a character. I've forgotten who it is, but he's making like cartoons of these strikes. You have Ellie Honig saying, and he's a very level-headed, middle-of-the-road legal analyst, saying this is literally a textbook example of a war crime. So that's why Trump's freaking out and blaming Hegseth. Hegseth's blaming Admiral Bradley. And let's see what Mark Wayne Mullen's saying.
The president and the Secretary of War has been very clear they're going to use lethality against our enemies, home and abroad. This is...
Home? 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 Actually, I think the military using lethality against people in our home is something we try not to do. Now, you may think that we're upset. If you're MAGA, you might think we're upset because of war crimes. But someone named Jack clarified for us, we're really upset because Pete Hegseth has a family. This is why the Democrats hate Pete Hegseth, says Jack. And it's Pete Hegseth with his admittedly very large family. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Are those all from the... Is that... Didn't he cheat a lot? I guess, yeah, we could maybe hate him because those kids are going to grow up to know how much he cheated on their mom. But okay, what they mean is we hate big, happy families, which is very strange. I love big, happy families. I don't love this big, happy family. I mean, I have no problem with the kids. I don't know the wife. I don't like Pete Hegseth. I don't like the father. Sorry, I didn't mean to. You get it. So, in response, people posted this photo of Gavin Newsom. Now, here's. I don't want to be like a lib boy. I don't want to be that. I love being liberal, but I don't want to be like the archetypical, oh, he's making it about race. But when they say we hate big families, do they really mean that? What does Jack really mean when he says this is why we hate Pete Hegseth? Is it purely just because there's a lot of kids? Because I know Democrats who have a lot of kids. Or is it something else that they're trying to allude to? Are they trying to do like a Sydney Sweeney narrative again? Right? Because it's just interesting that we got...
Interesting.
We have big white families too. That feels like what even the response is, which is big families are beautiful. But is that what they're kind of saying? I don't know. I'm not even saying that. But I never see them post one of the other famous politicians' families and say, Democrats hate this. Maybe the vice president's family. I never see them post his family and go, the Democrats hate this. It's always people like Pete's family. And I'm just curious. And even then the liberals respond with, oh yeah? Look at this. Which is a admittedly beautiful family. But is that what we're doing here? It feels like that's what we're doing, and I'm just curious. Okay, all right. I don't know. But then you have more posts, not even about HEGSETH now. Leftists fear this. And it's just, so now it's not a big family, right? Okay, so another person's doing leftists fear this. Now it's not even a big family. So it can't be they hate big families. Are you saying we hate even when people have one child? Then why are we so for enhanced child tax credits? I don't get it. Why do we want all these programs like paid family? Why do we want all these things to help out new parents? Or maybe they're saying it's something else. But the funny thing is, this does not look like a MAGA family. Can we be honest? You think that dude is MAGA? I have a good, like a MAGAdar, like a radar for MAGA. That's not a MAGA man. To which many people came up with funny.
That's PewDiePie.
Is he MAGA?
I doubt it.
How do I not? Okay, well, I was correct. I don't know him. Connor Rogers says, this is a D+30 family on vacation in Lake Como, spending an extra weekend there after their gay best friend's wedding. The wife went to the Women's March in 2017, and the dad reads the Bulwark. Someone else said, he's bisexual and she runs an Etsy shop from home. This is literally the left. PewDiePie. I've heard that name so many times. I never knew what Pewdie looked like. Pewdie is a cutie. What can you say? And then you have, shut up, Jaden. Then you have Mark, what? Nothing? Then you have Mark Kelly reacting to Trump saying that he engaged in sedition for reminding service members they have an obligation to follow the law. And if the law and orders conflict, then you follow the law as opposed to the orders, which is pretty boilerplate stuff. That led to Trump saying seditious behavior punishable by death. And Democratic Senator Mark Kelly gave a pretty impressive speech in response.
I will not be intimidated by this president.
Is PewDiePie bisexual? He does. That's a very lib fam. It looks like it. So what are we supposed to hate about it? All right, well, MAGA hates this. American flags and a patriot.
I will not be intimidated by this president. I am not going to be silenced by this president or the people around him because I've given too much in service to this country to back down to this guy. In 1991, when Donald Trump was driving the Taj Mahal casino into bankruptcy, I was getting shot at over Iraq and Kuwait. In 2001, after Donald Trump said that the collapse of the Twin Towers meant he now owned the tallest skyscraper in Manhattan, I was carrying flags honoring 9/11 victims into space on a rocket ship. In 2003, when Donald Trump was writing birthday greetings to the monster Jeffrey Epstein, I was the first on the scene to recover the bodies of my fellow astronauts who died when Space Shuttle Columbia exploded during re-entry. In 2011, when Trump was hosting a reality show and peddling conspiracy theories against President Barack Obama, I was sitting next to my wife's hospital bed as she recovered from a gunshot wound to the head. My point is this: I've been through a lot worse in service to my country. The president and Pete Hegseth are not going to silence me.
Not bad. Pretty impactful than this.
Throughout his entire career, in business, reality TV, and politics, Donald Trump has had one and only one play: bullying his opponents into silence. He did it as a failed casino owner who bankrupted his properties and screwed over his contractors. He did it as a reality TV host known for firing people. And he's done it as president who tries every day to intimidate people with no regards for the rights or well-being of the American people. I'll say this for the guy: while he's never seemed to do much else right for most of Donald Trump's career, bullying people has worked out for him. But not now. Because I won't let it happen. The American people won't let it happen. President Trump is trying to silence me, threatening to kill me for saying what is true. And he sent his Secretary of Defense after me.
Yeah, so think about that. We moved past it so quickly. Trump threatened death for them reminding service members of what's true. But then it's like Trump's supporters on X are just living in a different world. This person said, "What the F is he talking about? Trump has never threatened to kill him. What an outrageous lie." And you have Trump saying seditious behavior punishable by death and reposting someone saying, "Hang them, George Washington would." Seems pretty deathy to me, I guess is how I would put it.